80-meter, 100-meter, 200-meter, and 400-meter races. She's a Canadian record holder and is a medalist at the Pan American Games. Noella is a director at KidsInclusive Centre for Child and Youth Development, Kingston Health Sciences, and will speak to us today on the importance of resilience and the need to build and sustain resilience as individuals and as an organization, even through the most challenging of times. So please join me in a warm Five Counties welcome for Noella. Sorry the heat's getting to her. Y'all through my
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Noella Klawitter, and this is my guide dog, Doll. She's had a fairly quiet day today, given the heat, so hopefully her shenanigans will stay to a minimum. It's my honor to be here with you today at the Five Counties Children's Centre AGM, and to be surrounded by such a group of professionals that care so much about making meaningful change for children and families that we serve. I would like to acknowledge that I come from Rockville, Ontario, on the land of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat people. I am grateful to live and work and play on that land, and I honor the enduring presence of Indigenous people, both past and present. It's important to me. Like on my introduction, I'm going to speak about resilience today, and the theme of resilience is really personal to me. You see, I have lived it, I have learned it, I continue to lead through it, and I continue to learn from resilience. I believe that how we show up, especially when times are hard, matters more now than ever. So today I'm going to share stories, research, and strategies that have helped me and others through challenges, and to move forward really with purpose. So today, here's where we're going to go today, and I will try and keep it on time, Scott. I'll share some of my own journey through vision loss and sport and how that shaped my view of resilience. We'll explore how encouragement, perspective, and small intentional strategies can shift how we lead, how we connect to others, and how we care for ourselves and for those we serve. Ultimately, what I hope today gives you is something to reflect on, something to try, and something to take back to your own world with you. So a little bit about me. I wear many hats. So I am a mother to a beautiful, spirited, 6-year-old daughter, and I'm a former high-performance athlete. Professionally, I am director of KidsInclusive and co-chair of the EKO Leadership Council. Both these roles allow me to bring heart and strategy to the children and families that we serve. I have also lived with vision loss for many years, an experience that has truly changed how I see the world in every aspect of the word. So I'd like to start by grounding us in a couple of quotes. And the first quote there from Cynthia speaks to the fact that we often take for granted the things that most deserve our gratitude. And I have this picture up there. This car is a 5-speed standard Dodge Eagle Talon. And this was the first car I ever bought with my own money. If someone had told me when I was getting my driver's license in high school, or when I was doing my undergrad, that I may someday be going totally blind, I would have told them that they were absolutely crazy. There was no way. The fact of the matter is that those simple things, those small joys, being able to drive a car, see the flowers, feel the wind, those simple joys are so important, and we often take those for granted. The second quote down there from Jason Penny focuses on the fact that we are all going to struggle. Everyone in this room is going to have obstacles, but it's how we learn and how we grow from them that makes us stronger and makes us better for future success. So just a little bit about my eyes. So I have what's called a rod cone dystrophy. So if you were to take your right hand and put it over your right eye, and take maybe 3 fingers and put it over your left eye with a little bit of space, that would be how I see. So the back of my eyes, as you can see on the picture here, they hemorrhage and there is irreversible damage. I also have some growths some white growths on the periphery of my eyes. So I can't see much when I look forward, but I do have some clear lanes of vision. So as an arachnophobic person, I can sometimes still see a spider on the wall if I'm in the right lane of sight.
That's a woman.
My vision is a deteriorating condition. It's degenerative. It is not going to get better. So that is something that I live with. Although it cannot be reversed or treated, there are treatments that help to stabilize my vision loss. And that one of those treatments is injections into the eye. I know that's more common these days, a lot of people get them. The reason I share that is because I can stand up here and talk about my vision loss, but if I said when I first heard about it that I didn't have fear, that would be a liar. When I go for these treatments that I'm not scared, or it would be not true, because courage isn't the absence of fear, but courage is the ability to stand up and move forward regardless of it. Fear can sometimes be the greatest disability of all. These injections are somewhat visible manifestations of resilience. There's something that I have to go through, and we all have our things we have to go through that we don't like, that we push through and get back up. It's how we face these small challenges that makes us who we are. So I had to share this because obviously as my vision deteriorated, I went from a full-sighted person to losing my sight over time. I've had a lot of life lessons and a lot of things I've had to learn differently. For instance, reading and writing differently, doing my makeup, being able to participate in sports. But I've also had some funny challenges, and this was how I showed up to work one day. I do blame this on my sight, but as you can probably see in there, one has laces, one does not. But no real need to point that out. Another thing I did, I put on hand cream one day. I had everything in my cupboard, and just was a rookie visually impaired lesson. It was self-tanner. My hands were fluorescent for weeks. It was ironic. I definitely went through pity parties when I found out about my sight. I thought, how am I going to get through this? I'm never going to find the love of my life. I'm never going to be the career woman I want. I thought so many doors were closing. But in reality, so many doors were just opening. And perhaps I was getting the best vision that I ever had. One of those doors that opened up to me was my athletic career and the Paralympic team, the road to London 2012. I ran as a Canadian visually impaired runner, and it really became who I was, a huge part of my life. I competed in many different areas, but what stands out for me the most was the actual Canadian Paralympic team. Everyone on that team has been through a challenge of some sort, whether they were born with it or whether they acquired it later in life like myself. One of my good friends, Michelle Stillwell, she was on her boyfriend's back when she was a teenager and fell off. She became a quadriplegic after that accident. Yet she became one of the most decorated athletes in Canadian history. Absolutely amazing, and she has an amazing career now doing amazing things. What was so special about that team, again, was that everyone chose to get back up and not just do the ordinary, but do the extraordinary. The only limits we put on ourselves are us. In my athletic career, I was grateful to accomplish quite a few things. One of the really neat things I got to do was have dinner with Will and Kate. from the royal family. That was really neat as we were moving towards London 2012. I do have numerous Canadian records. A couple still stand to this day. Some of them are being a little bit impeded on. I was fortunate enough to go to the Pan Am Games and be a triple Pan American gold medalist, which was great. One of the things I found that I was really able to do was, through my story, was to help others overcome adversity or help others do amazing things. If you're ever bored, there is a documentary on CBC The National about me and my journey up to London 2012. It's just a 10-minute video. One of the things I did on my route to London was I worked with many different schools, just helping to empower children, speaking about my journey. One school I became particularly close with, the students wrote me a letter or sent me a card every single day leading up to London 2012. But this school also had an annual 5K fundraiser run walk. And I was speaking at the school one day and this young lad came up to me and he said, "Noella, all I've ever wanted to do is break 25-minute 5K. So we were talking about it and I said, well, why don't we do it together? I will pace you and you guide me. And this was an elementary school just for age, so he would have been about 12, 13 maybe. Anyways, he was ecstatic. So we show up race day, he's so nervous. It reminded me of how I get before races. His parents were there. We ran the race together. Not only did he run under 25 minutes, he ran 23:30. He was so ecstatic. His parents were excited. It was just such a feat for him. And when I think back to my athletic career, I think that's probably one of the number one things that stands out for me over anything, because sometimes the greatest things that we do in life are not what we ourselves accomplish, but what we help others to do. And that really stands out for me. So my goal was to represent Canada at London 2012. It looked really good, like that was going to happen for me. I was a fully carded, as they call it, athlete. Running became my 24/7, my life. I lived, ate, breathed, running. I achieved one of the standards for the London 2012 Paralympics. So you can imagine my distress when on July 1st of 2012 I was cut from the Paralympic team. The Paralympic works a little different in the sense that there's a quota for how many athletes can go, and only 6 females were chosen. Based on who Athletics Canada thought had the highest podium potential, I was not chosen, even though I was the Canadian champion and had the standard. They chose not to take any visually impaired females. So all of a sudden, these dreams that I had, this identity that I had formed, was swept out from under me. I cried for days. I didn't want to leave my house. I thought I had let my mom down. I thought I had let my husband down. I thought I had let all these children who were cheering for me down. All of a sudden it was over. I wasn't going, and I was devastated. You see, I got so wrapped up in the fact that I was an athlete that I forgot about other parts of myself, that I was an academic, that I was a daughter, that I was a wife. I was so focused on the fact that this was all I wanted. On the day that the Paralympic team left for London 2012, I received a call that my mom was sick. My mom had cholangiocarcinoma, which is cancer of the bile ducts. So I actually went to PEI, that's where she lived, and spent some time with her. She did really, really well. So we had some months that passed. We went to chemo together, and my mom was one of these people. She could light up a room, even the chemo treatment room, with her smile. She was British and just had this humor about her. And she did really well with her positive attitude and the chemo. She received the good news that her cancer was shrinking. I was finishing my master's degree at this time, so she was given the okay to fly to Ottawa to see me graduate with my master's degree. So she flew to Ottawa a few months later, and the day she landed, she actually wasn't feeling well. She got quite sick. My mom took a seizure and passed. She never got to see me graduate with my master's degree. It was heart-wrenching for me. And the reason I share this is because all of a sudden, what I had spent so many weeks crying about, what I had had these huge pity parties about, what I felt a victim, unjustified, it was all irrelevant. Because I wouldn't run another race to have had another hour with my mom. I forgot about the fact that I had so many other identities. And I challenge you as you're going through life, when you hit hard times, to think of yourself more than just your position. You are more than just a CEO. You are more than just a clinician. You are more than whatever you focus on. You have so much to you. And by finding those other components, those other parts, it can help you to get through hard times. I'm going to share another story with you, and I apologize if I'm bouncing a bit. I can't really see the slides, but we're going to go with the flow. So, when I was a child, I was born in northern Manitoba, and when I was 12, 13, we moved to Prince Edward Island. My parents decided to move there. Unfortunately, the day we arrived on PEI, the company my dad had a job with went bankrupt. So it was very sad for him. My father turned to addiction, unfortunately, and within months, our family was on welfare. I was one of the social services children in PEI. I went to school there in northern Manitoba. I was a fairly popular girl. I played basketball. I had never experienced bullying. And when I went to school at Charlottetown Rural, I was picked on, I was isolated, there were mean words. I just didn't fit. My life shifted upside down so drastically. Not only was I being teased at school, things were bad at home. I remember standing in the snow one day because the bullying was so bad that I didn't want to go to school. I wanted to get sick. Just when I thought things couldn't get much worse, I came home from school one day and my father had tried to commit suicide. At 13 years old, this is a really hard thing to fathom. Fortunately, he was fine. He did end up obviously needing to go through some treatment. But I went to school the next day and I remember thinking on the bus to school, I can't do this anymore. What have I done wrong? Why does, you question your father's love, you question why you have no friends. Things just seemed really rough. And I walked into the lobby of Charlottetown Rural High School. And Charlottetown Rural High School has a big foyer when you walk in, and there's kind of rooms off the side. And I walked in and I heard this guy, he laughed, he made fun, he pointed at me and said that I'd driven my father to the loony bin. I was so humiliated, and humiliation is the cornerstone of loneliness. So that day, I skipped first period, and I was literally walking down the hallway at Charlottetown Rural, and I was thinking, I am not good enough. I can't do this. My life sucks. I don't want to be here anymore. And I was on the edge, the very edge of a proverbial cliff, and I wanted to jump off. And just as I was in my worst, I see another girl. She was actually on the basketball team, start coming towards me. And again, I'd skipped class, so there shouldn't be any people in the hallway. And I thought, here we go again. Here goes something. And I was just dreading it. She came up to me and she said, Noella, are you okay? I just kind of grunted. And she said, are you really okay? And she put her hand on my shoulder. She smiled. And then off she went. But for the first time since I'd entered Charlottetown Rural High School, someone was kind to me. I had hope. You see, I was at the end of this cliff, and I saw her coming, and she had a choice. She could have pushed me off. It wouldn't have taken anything but a little push. But instead, she grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and pulled me back. She doesn't know she did that. But I want you to think about that for a second. Think of the power of kindness, the power of coming to work and having a gentle smile. The last statistic I saw was that 37% of the Canadian workforce feels like they've experienced workplace harassment or workplace bullying. That is not acceptable because we do have a choice how we show up. We can come into work, we can smile, we can choose to seek out people that may just need a pickup. We can choose just to smile and ask if people are okay. We have that conscious effort. And I challenge all of you as you go into your next week to just take that extra effort to show kindness, to show gentleness, and to smile to someone who you may not normally. If we're going to change the Canadian workforce, the Canadian children in our future, it has to start with us. We talk about resilience. And, you know, sometimes I feel we're put in situations that are just not okay, situations we can't control. And, you know, we're told to be more resilient, or we're told to self-care our way out of that situation. Which is great, but sometimes it seems like self-care is almost being weaponized. Let me tell you, you cannot self-care your way out of budget cuts. There are certain things that you just can't self-care your way out of. It's a common misconception. You can't deep breathe your way through ministry, systemic, family stress. Self-care is important, but self-care has to be meaningful. It has to be accessible, and it has to be part of a broader approach to resilience. True resilience isn't about enduring more. It's about learning what supports, what intentional actions will build us up and not tear us down. You see, as we're growing up, we learn. Our children learn a lot different than we do as adults. As children, we go to school, or children go to school, they are taught shared lessons. They are tested on those lessons, and then they get the results. They learn from it. As adults, we are often tested first, and then we get the results afterwards. And that's why we need to have forms of resilience. There is a lot of noise in this world and a lot of turbulence, and the only person who can hold your morale is you. So how do we do this? Dr. Robin Hanley Defoe, who's actually from Peterborough, she coined the phrase everyday resilience. And she talked in it about the 5 key things that can help you build resilience. And I use that word with emphasis, build. Resilience is something that can be forged. It can be built. We can move it forward. There are many theories of resilience, but I love hers, and the fact she's from Peterborough is great. She talked about belonging. The fact that we need to have that one key caring person. This can change over our lives, but we need to have a sense of someone. We need to not feel alone. She talked about perspective and mental nimbleness, and I like the drawing that should be on here, the 6th and the 9th, because sometimes we need to look at things a different way. She spoke about acceptance. The reality is, like I said, there are a lot of things going on that are not okay. But what resilient people are able to do is to identify what is within their scope and breadth of control. There are going to be certain things that we can't control. And resilient people don't deplete their resources on that. They focus on the things that they can move. So when you're in a tough situation, what can I do to make this better? And then we're going to go on to hope. This one is important for me because having hope is not just a concept. There is a physiological reaction in your brain when you have hope. Hope brings optimism. Hope helps you move things forward. You need to have something I challenge you to think of something that brings you hope or something that you're looking forward to. I also think about hope when it comes to children's services, and one of the greatest things that we can do for our children is give them hope. My daughter, she comes home from school one day and she says to me, "Well, Mama, I'm going to be Taylor Swift." So my hope-depleted inner chatter goes, "Oh no, you won't be able to do that." I think she has my singing voice. But aside from that, it's really hard to do. It takes lots of practice. It's not realistic. She needs to think of her academics. My inner chatter is going and going. But I don't say that to her. I say, oh really, Ava? That is great, because I cannot project my own hope-depleted thoughts onto her. We need to say to our children, the world is yours. Give it a go. And it is so important. We can't put limits on our children, and giving them hope is honoring them. It's giving them belief. And lastly, humor. Science has shown that when you laugh, your body actually releases a natural tranquilizer. So for that very moment in time, you cannot feel pain. So laughing, it's not going to solve all your problems, but what it can do is it gives you time and space. It gives you that pause, that moment that you can't feel pain, just to breathe. Finding ways to incorporate humor into your life is so important. So I just like to show this model every once in a while. This is called the Yerkes-Dodson model. And this shows that we do need some stress in our life. If we don't have any stress, our performance is going to be probably lackadaisy. We see this when people have checked out, when people are done. We need some stress in our... Did I do that? Yeah. Touchscreen, who would have thought? We need some stress in our lives to have optimal performance. But if we go too far the other way, we're going to burn out. So how do we have intentional strategies that we can hold that medium level of stress? So again, I'm going to speak to Dr. Defoe's work, because she coined the phrase that I love: stop stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies. We are all looking for a quick fix. We look at the life coaches, we look at the weight loss pills. I've bought so many expensive journals, it's ridiculous. But her advice, and the advice I would give to you, is stop stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies. And what do I mean by this? No life coach is going to be able to help you if you haven't slept more than 2 hours. Your body needs to sleep. Your hippocampus needs that to strengthen neural responses. Self-compassion. When was the last time you said thank you to yourself? Or just took a moment to pause and take a deep breath? Research has shown even micro practices of self-compassion, just giving yourself a break, can make a huge deal. If you're dehydrated, you are not going to be able to get in shape. You are not going to function your best. Hydration is proven to help cognitive flexibility. Hugs. Touch. We are in a touch deficit. After COVID, fear, and our increased reliance on technology, we are definitely in a touch deficit. Touching releases oxytocin, which is called the bonding hormone. It's one of those happy chemicals that's just going to help you feel that much better. Walking and nature, so important, and if you can combine the two, great. And gratitude. I am a huge believer of gratitude. One of the things I put into my life is that I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every single night. And sometimes even on a bad day, it can be hard to find things you're grateful for, but when you sit down and you look at it, I have my daughter, I have those simple joys, I saw that flower, I heard that bird today. There's also with gratitude been shown to be a dose-response benefit. So if you continuously practice gratitude, if you continuously find things to be grateful for, your resilience will get stronger and stronger. There are energy generators versus energy drainers. So we have a cup every morning when we get up, and our cup is full. And then we get up and our daughter's throwing a fit because she can't find her socks. One of the dogs have peed on the floor. We don't have lunches packed. Life seems busy. The smoke detector goes off for some reason. We start to pour out of our cup. We get in the car. We back over our daughter's bicycle. I would definitely do that, but we hear some horns beeping. We get stuck at every red light. We pour a little bit more out of our cup. We get to work. And our parking spot's taken, but we finally get into our office and bam, 2002 emails. We pour more out of our cup as our increasing schedule and demands. We are at 9 a.m. and our cup is half empty. The good thing about our cup is that we can pour back into it. We need to find these simple things that we can do, whether it's putting on loud music and just shaking it off for a few minutes before you go into work, whether it's taking that farther spot in the parking lot and walking and just giving yourself time, whether it's breathing, whatever it may be, we need to pour a little bit back into our cup. If we can't take care of ourselves and we are starting the day depleted, it's going to be really hard to take care of others. So again, I just put a gentle invitation for you to find things that will help you to fill up your cup. I can be the pot calling the kettle black sometimes. When things get rough, I'm the first one to stop doing yoga or stop doing my quick meditation or all the things that benefit me. I start maybe having an extra glass or 5 of wine at night. Things that aren't going to help me. I scroll. A coping mechanism that has helped me so much is asking yourself with integrity, even when you are low, is this behavior helping or hindering me? Because if I ask that truly of myself, I will catch myself. I can catch myself in the moment and know scrolling Facebook for 2 hours is not doing me any good when I have loads of other things to do. It's asking that in question, again, with integrity and with purpose. You see, we're all going to fall down. It doesn't matter how perfect our life will be. There's a famous Japanese proverb that says, if I fall down 100 times, I will get up 101. And we are all going to fall. We are all human. We don't know what the people beside us are going through. We don't know what's going on with someone else's life. But we do know that we are all going to struggle. And by getting back up and by sharing a kind word, we can help others to do that too. The key is we can't be ashamed that we struggle. We need to be proud that we keep on trying. There is still, in this day and age, 37% of workers feel their workplace harassment. There's a stigma. There's a stigma when people struggle that we should be stronger, tougher. But we need to not be ashamed that we struggle, but so proud that we get up and we keep on trying, because that is what courage is. I like to near the end put on this picture. So this is a picture of myself skydiving after the 2011 World Championships in New Zealand. I have people say, why would you skydive? You can't see anyways. I chose to skydive because it was something on my bucket list. And I choose to live my life not by what I lack, but by what I aspire to be. We are all going to lack in something. We're going to, whether it's money, whether it's sight, there's always a lack, and we can find a lack if we try to. But we can also find what we aspire to be, which is what's going to create our future and our children's future. Helen Keller. So I want you to think about this for a second, especially when we put limits on the children that may walk through our doors. Helen Keller was blind and deaf. So think of how hard it would be for her to communicate. However, Helen Keller became one of the most iconic women in history. Just amazing. And she said that happiness comes through fidelity to a worthy purpose. And to me, that means finding your gifts, helping others, empowering others, and sharing that. Lastly, Viktor Frankl, if you have never read the book Man's Search for Meaning, it's a transformational text. It's one that I've gone back to and I find so heartfelt. He was a famous existential psychiatrist or psychologist. He said the last of man's human freedoms is the ability to choose your attitude. He went through excruciating things, and think about this. The last of our human freedoms is the ability to choose our attitude. This is so true, and it resonates so much with us. I challenge you to think of a vision, to think of what's going to help you be hope-filled. For me, it's empowering people. It's through resilience, through knowledge, and through example. And that's what keeps me going. I was going to try and read my closing notes, but I'll just wing it. This is a picture of my daughter. She was younger there. She is going to be 7 July 4th, actually. And one of the things that I've had to come to the conclusion in my life is somewhat radical acceptance. Everything that's happened in my life, every adversity, every story, there's so many stories I could tell, but everything has brought me to this moment right here, right now. If any of that had changed, I wouldn't be here speaking to this amazing group of people, to the amazing Scott and his board of directors. Everything has brought me here. I have a beautiful little girl that she was unplanned, and she's just great. She's brought me so much joy. Everything has happened to bring me where I am right now. So I do want to thank everyone for taking the time, for giving me the space, and for listening today. If there's one thing that I hope you can take out of this, it's that resilience isn't something that you are born with or born without. Resilience is something that can be grown, that can be built, something that can be forged. It's by finding those small, intentional strategies, those little things that are going to help you move forward, that are so important. We work in a tough sector, and I invite you to work with one another, not just to survive and get through each day, but to thrive beyond that. Yes, thank you all for listening. Anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? Okay. Well, if you do, Scott has my information and happy to connect. Here.
Thank you, Noella and all. I understand we provided you with a gift in advance, which is a strong vote of confidence in your talk. Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, your challenging times, and all of the lessons that you've learned, and perhaps other people were trying to memorize and write down so many of the things that you said. Thank you for quoting Robin Hanley Defoe. She's a faculty member at Trent University where I work, and she was a keynote speaker here a couple of years ago. She's amazing. We took advantage of her a lot during the pandemic to help us get through all of that. So one of the quotes that I wrote down was the greatest things we accomplish are the things that we help each other do. And that's what this room is filled with, people who are helping other people. We've got board members, staff, family, and community members. I do just want to recognize Diane Peck, former Executive Director of the Centre. And also Ron Fotheringham in the back corner, a former board member on the board when I started 9 years ago. And Five Counties really does rely upon strong collaborations with everybody in this room, the organizations, schools, groups, and a network of dedicated professionals to accomplish this wonderful work.